I received an interesting email today in my Gmail. It was really not that interesting. It's not something that I'm surprised someone didn't send me because I had got an email, I believe it was last year, from someone who questioned me about how I felt about Atlanta, Georgia. And the email that I got last year, I believe it was last year, it was from a woman that asked me, she said, was there anything in Georgia that you loved? And that's equivalent to the video that I made previously when I said that Georgia is a place that I absolutely despised. And I feel like that's a very fair question because I'm gonna open up on some things that I feel about Georgia, and I believe that a lot of my disgust comes from the people and not the place itself. I'm not trying to chop it up or anything like that, but when me and Salam Yilma had decided to get together, and I decided that I was going to relocate there a long time ago. Before that, I knew about Atlanta and everything that goes on in Atlanta. And by me growing up on the south side of Chicago in a community that was very diverse, it wasn't a predominantly black neighborhood. It was all types of people there. And so through the years, even out in Chicago, I had come to notice that wherever there is a predominantly black population, there's problems, immense problems. And so during my observation of Atlanta and everything about what's going on there, the high homosexuality rate and the high um, accumulation of blacks, the gangs and the violence and everything. I had mentioned to Salam that I told the creator that I would never move there because that goes against what I'm used to in terms of my upbringing. And like I said, during my observation, I've noticed that wherever there's a lot of black people present, there's a whole lot of problems. And so I had explained to her because we're going to have a business out there, like a contracting business. And I told her, even though I told the creator that I would never move there, I'll do that for us, because I was tripping with this whole love and getting married stuff. But I had explained to her, I said, but excuse me, once I get there, my primary focus, I told her, because I just need you to know where my head is. My primary focus is going to be on you and the business that we're going to be running. I said, I'm not going to associate myself with the culture out there. I'm not going to be very sociable with the people out there because I don't care about the culture. I actually do not care. I don't, because I don't need the conflict. I don't need the drama. And if it's one community that has always acted as though they had disliked me, it has always been the black community. And for a long time, I was trying to figure out why. And I'm gonna share something with you. Even when I moved out here to Las Vegas, and I came in contact with some Minister Louis Farrakhan footage. The first footage that I came in contact with was from when he was on Donahue. I believe that was the year either 1985 or the year 1995. It was one of those. And I was so impressed. And so once I started studying the Nation of Islam, Brother Malcolm, and everything, and I was in a real bad relationship with my son's mother. And so what I noticed, the more disappointed that I got with my relationship, and the more angry that I had became, it, in a sense, in effect, grew as a more stronger influence on me to go in the direction of the Nation of Islam, because of the brotherhood and the family unit that they had propagated there. So, and I felt as though there were some things as a man that I needed to further develop. And so what I noticed was the militancy in the program. And plus I was also observing Brother Malcolm, Mr. Louis Farrakhan. And so I said, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go down there and see if I could join the Nation of Islam. And so when I went down there, some of the brothers were very nice to me, and a lot of the brothers wasn't, because of my so-called appearance, my hair and my eye complexion and my eye color and everything. So they noticed that a lot of the sisters down there were interested in me. And when we would have meetings, study meetings, a lot of people would like my point of views and my analysis of a whole lot of things. And so, but to speed it up a little bit, there was a lot of brothers down there that would give me problems. And these problems that they gave me were unprovoked by me. And so I was struggling to stay. And there was a particular night where we were all down there. I believe it was just when the brothers get together. And so there was one night where I went in and out the mosque twice, and there was a brother down there who acted like he had a problem with me for some reason, and he was the one who was checking everybody as they came in, because you can't go out of the mosque and come back in without being patted down. And so the second time, I went to my car and I came back, and he looked at me. He said, "Go ahead, bro. Go ahead." And this guy always acted like he had an attitude towards me. And so there's this brother down there named Brother Wesley. I mentioned Brother Wesley a whole lot. And Brother Wesley, I love Brother Wesley. He is the kindest, not only Muslim, but the kindest black man that I've ever met in my life. Brother Wesley Muhammad. Shout out to you, Brother Wesley. And so I pulled him to the side and I told him the problems that I'm having with this dude. And I was just very honest with him. I said, if he keep messing with me, I said, I'm gonna whoop his ass. And Brother Wesley said, well, Brother David, we can't have that down there. I said, who's gonna stop me? I said, Brother Wesley, do not underestimate me. I said, because I'm not saying I'm Superman, but nobody down here can mess with me. Nobody. Okay, because I know what I'm capable of doing. Not only am I a trained martial artist and a phenomenal martial artist and a boxer, but I have a what is called an ancient type strength. Because when I was a kid, when I was a baby, a kid, um, I used to break my rattles in half, and my mother was like, "Why is she so strong?" And so she took me to the hospital. And from what she told me, she said the doctor said there's nothing wrong with him. He's just strong. He's just a strong kid. She said, yeah, but he's breaking rattles. These plastic, these hard rattles in that. He said, he's just a strong kid. And so you're going to have to help him realize that, so that he won't get himself in trouble. So one time my granddad had came in, and he was talking to my mother as I was in my cradle and everything. And I was so that while he was there, I broke another rattle in half. And my mother said, "You see, I took him to the doctor and blah 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 blah." From that point on, my granddad said, "I know what I'm going to nickname him. I'm going to nickname him Hannibal, for Hannibal Barca, because the African Hannibal Barca, who conquered Rome, he fought with two swords in each hand, and each sword was 60 to 65 pounds each. So that's why I was told my physical strength is ancient. I have an ancient type physical strength, and I know that, and therefore I know how to apply it. If I have to, I can trigger my adrenaline like that. It all depends upon the situation that I'm in. So that's why I told Brother Wesley, I'm not worried about nobody down here. And so, from talking to Brother Wesley, he said, you just got to show the brothers love down here. I said, that's all I've been doing, Brother Wesley. That's all I've been doing. I haven't been unkind to anyone. I haven't been disrespectful to anyone or anything like that. And therefore, Brother Wesley didn't give me the answer that brought me any type of thoughts of endurance or peace about the situation. So I walked outside the mosque, and I walked down to the edge of the mosque, almost to the end of it, and I just leaned back against the wall, and I folded my arms like this, and I was just shaking my head, and I was thinking about what I'm going through at home with my son's mother. What I went through with my parents, I can't find any respect or acceptance anywhere. What is it with these people to where, and what is it with black men, that every time I come in contact with black men, I find myself being extra kind to them just for to be accepted for who and what I am. But it's going to get to a point to where a person as myself, I'm no longer going to try. Suddenly, I forget this brother's name, but he came out of the mosque and he walked up to me. He said, "Brother David, what's going on? Are you all right? You all right?" Now I'm looking at this dude. Now he knows the problem that I'm dealing with, because he knows that he's the problem. And so he said, what's going on? And so I opened up to him. I told him, I said, you know why I'm down here? He said, because you want to be a member of the Nation of Islam. I said, it's deeper than that, bro. It's deeper than that. I said, I'm down here because I don't love you. I'm down here because I want to learn how to love you. I said, but I'm just going to be honest with you, bro. I don't love you. I don't. I don't love you, bro. I don't love you. You know? I said, why is it so hard to love you? I said, bro, I don't love you. Okay? And so he said, yes, sir. And he just walked in the mosque. I bring that up because I told Salam, I said, once I get there, see, because I figured if you can't go to the Nation of Islam and find respect between you and your black brother, there's nowhere else that you're ever going to find it. Because if Islam is incapable of teaching black men to love one another, forget it. Forget it. Because Islam is all about love for your brother. You know, those who are a part of the Islamic world. So I had told her, I told Salam, I said, I'm just going to come out there. I said, my focus is going to be on you and the business. I said, I'm going to isolate myself from the black community. I said, I'm not going to any black gatherings, none of that, you know. And so the email asked me, was there anything in Atlanta that you enjoyed? Number one, Salam Yilma took me to this mountain. It's called Lone Mountain. Yes, Lone Mountain is a beautiful mountain. And you go all the way up to the top of it, and you can overlook the city, and all you see is trees. It's almost like being in an airplane looking out of the window, and all you see are clouds. It was a beautiful place. And then after we walked down from the mountain, there's a 5-mile walk that you can take around the Lone Mountain. I enjoyed that with her. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. You know, and people ask me, do you miss her sometimes? Yeah, I missed her. Yeah, I miss her because my interests, my intentions, my love, and all of that was very honest towards her. It was very honest towards her. And but the lesson with her, due to the fact that she was Ethiopian, I mistakenly thought that I had something special because she wasn't an American black woman who we are having these major problems with. And she turned out to be worse. And so that taught me it's not about skin tone when it comes to the American black woman or any woman in general. Everything is inward. So during my time there, it was hard for me to find work out there. I wanted to drive a bus out there, but when I went to the interview, they only offered me part-time work, and they were saying sometimes it takes up to a year or 2 years in order for you to get a normal schedule. And the schedules that they were giving out for new people were like 2 or 3 days a week, and that just wasn't going to be enough for me, considering the circumstances that I was in. So that just wasn't going to work for me. No, that wasn't going to work at all. And it seems like everywhere I went to apply for a job, due to the fact that my resume was, my work history was mostly in Las Vegas and not Georgia, it was hard for me to get work anywhere, any serious work, because I even went to a factory out there because I know how to work machinery in factories, like picking up big pieces of steel and transferring them to trucks. I know I have experience in that. I went there and I didn't get hired there. I even went to Walmart. Walmart didn't even want to hire me because most of my work experience was here in Las Vegas. And I was told that Georgia has this thing with people who come from out of state, which is stupid, but it's easy for me to say that's prejudice, but we're talking about Georgia. So you can expect that pretty much. But so I end up trying to get a job at this other factory that this young man named Bill Lee was working at, who was renting a room out of Salam's place. And so he took me, he knocked on my door. He said, "Dave, I need you to go with me to this birthday party." He said, "Because a whole lot of people who you're going to be working with are going to be there, and I want to introduce you to them." Because he was going to try to get me a job where he's working. And when I went there, he introduced me to everybody. Everybody was in the living room. And they said, "Go ahead and fix you a plate." So I fixed me a plate to eat. And I sat down at this dining room table, and I was eating, and an older woman who was the guy's great aunt, she came and she sat at the dining room table with me. Now, this woman looked like she was about 75 or 70 or 75 years old. And she was beautiful. She had a beautiful face. She had long salt and pepper hair, and she was very, very nice. And she asked me, she said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm fine." She said, "Where are you from?" I told her I'm from Chicago. And she was asking me my nationality, and I said, "Well, it's a lot of things." I said, "But considering the Indian, the Irish, and the black, she said, you're Creole." And I told her, I said, "Okay, I'm Creole." She said, "That's what makes up the Creole." She said, "That's why I was asking you." She said, "Do you have any relatives in Louisiana?" And I told her, I said, "I'm not certain." She said, "What about New Orleans?" I said, "I'm not certain." I said, "I really don't know my family." And so we got into a conversation, and she asked me, "So do you like it out here?" She said, how long have you been here?" I said, "I've been here for, it's going on a year." She said, "Do you like it?" I was like, "No." I told her the problems that I was having with Salam and finding a job and everything. And she mentioned to me that she's a senior of Atlanta, Georgia. So she was born and raised there. She said this place has changed a lot during the years. She said Georgia wasn't like this. She said Atlanta wasn't like this at first. She said what you're dealing with are the people that came here and brought all of their madness with them. And so, but she, the reason why she said that is because I told her, I said, I think it's beautiful out here. I said, I love all the trees and the weather is beautiful to me and everything. And she said, well, after I told her how I've been treated, she said, well, Georgia has changed a lot through the years. She said, like I repeat, she said, people bring their madness with them. And she said, and that's been going on for a long time. So a lot of people who move here are the people that is making Atlanta a, a bad place to be. And so she was asking me about my family, about my parents and everything. And I told her that I was estranged from my parents, and telling her some things. And she was saying, you're very indifferent from your family. And she said that most people who are indifferent from their families are the ones that are going to be felt as though they're being persecuted. And she said it's not that you are a bad person. She said you're just different. And she said, and that's just the way it is when it comes to family. She said the black sheeps are always the ones who are doing absolutely nothing in darkness. Because I had explained to her, I said, I've never been to jail. I've never smoked, never drank, never did drugs. I was good in school. I never gave my parents any problems. I never even had to serve detention when I was in school. Always got good grades. You know, she said, your personality is different. She said, and as long as you are looked upon as different and therefore eccentric or odd, she said, you're gonna always have to deal with that. She said, but it's all about how you respond to it. She said, don't let it get you down. She said, you have to find a better way to respond to it, to the point to where it no longer bothers you anymore. She says, and when it all boils down to it, everything is about how you respond to it. She said, now if you understand how to respond to it, she said, then it won't bother you. She's a very wise woman. And we talked about a lot of things. And my friend Bill's friend who was throwing a party, I believe it was Thanksgiving. It was someone. He noticed that I was sitting at the table talking to his great aunt. Now, by this man not knowing me, he doesn't know where my head is. So he came over. He said, "Is everything all right over here?" And she said, "Yeah, everything is fine." She said, "We're just over here talking." And so as the night went on, um, she got up about 40 minutes after that, and she took her rest. And so him and Bill and I went to the backyard, and they had this beautiful display. It was like a oriental looking backyard. They had little fountains and everything. And he said, his friend asked me, he said, so what was you and my aunt talking about? I said, that's your aunt? He said, yeah, why you asking me that? I'm like, I'm asking you that. I said, because you blessed, bro. He said, why you say that? I said, because that woman is full of wisdom. I said, I thought she was God. For a second, I thought she was God. He said, oh, no. He said, no, bro, that's my great aunt. I'm like, yeah, well, she was telling me, she was giving me some insight on a whole lot of things, that I need to work on, and according to what I was telling her. And he said, yeah, man, she's got some good insight. I'm like, yeah, man. I had to repeat to him. I said, yeah, because It's almost like talking to God. It's like she's full of God. She's full of God. You know, and so that was another very pleasant experience that I had in Georgia. Now, what I eventually had to do, I went and I got me something quick. So I went up the street and I got me a job at Popeyes Chicken. And so since I'm a master cleaner, because I've worked in kitchens out here in Las Vegas, I know how to clean grills, and I'm a master cleaner, master cleaner. And so what I noticed about the particular Popeyes out there is that in the kitchen there was a lot of chaos. So I asked the manager, I told the manager, I said, I'm a master cleaner. And she said, okay. I said, I can keep your kitchen clean. She said, you want to wash the dishes? I'm like, yeah. I said, forget about it. I said, I'll be a dishwasher, and I'll keep everything clean around here. And that's what separated me from the chaos, because I'm always trying to avoid chaotic environments, because I know chaotic environments affect you. And considering everything that I was going through currently, I didn't need any more um, disorder around me, because my mind was I was dealing with a lot of hurt and a lot of anger and a lot of humiliation and everything. So I was back there and I was the dishwasher, and I kept the kitchen clean. Now the reason why I bring this up is because Popeyes was full of a lot of young people, young teenagers, and people who were in their late teens and mid 20s. And these young people were so kind to me. They were so kind and loving to me. I would come in and everybody would just run up and give me a hug. How you doing, Mr. David? I had to get used to Mr. David, because I had to ask him, I said, why do y'all call me Mr. David? He said, that's a Southern thing, Mr. David. Even when I was working at the moving company, I noticed the young men used to call me Unc. And I was like, Unc? And they said, yeah, you're an older guy, so we call you Unc. They say that's out of respect. So that's in place of sir. We just call you Unc. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I like that. And so what kept me going and what kept me sane out there, you might as well say, was the love that these young people gave me. There's a brother out there who I'm still in touch with. His name is Derek. I adopted him as my brother. I said, this is my brother. Me and Derek is still in touch. His kid's mother, Ebony. There was another young lady that I used to call my daughter, named Kim. And the management, I love the management. There was a brother in there named Aramis. I forget what this woman's name is, but she was a light-skinned chick. Oh, excuse me, a light-skinned woman. I forget what her name was, but I was so, man, man, I was loving on her, man. She was my favorite manager. I couldn't say no to her, and it was just a beautiful group of people that I was working with. And however, what I learned was Georgia was a very humbling experience for me because I've been overseas. I'm gonna share something with you that I told my brother in Texas, Josh. I told him about one night I was back there washing the dishes. Derek was back there with me, was washing the dishes, and I was talking about what I went through with Salam and everything, and then my mind reflected back on all the places that I've been: Dharamsala, India; London, England; Brisbane, England; Islamabad, and all of these places overseas. And then I'm looking at my current situation. I'm back here as a dishwasher in the Popeyes restaurant. What the hell happened? And then my mind reflected back. It's because you wanted love. You wanna, you gave up everything in Las Vegas. It's your first time away from your sons. You gave up your whole life for somebody who wasn't worth a damn. And with all of that building up in me, all of a sudden I just exploded in this. I was started talking out loud about everything that she said to me, things that she did to me, and all of a sudden I just started tearing the damn kitchen up. I threw the pots, and the manager came back there, the one I was saying I'm real infatuated with. She said, "Mr. David, what's wrong?" And tell her I'm going through something. So she took me outside, and she said, "What's going on?" She said, "Talk to me." And so I explained to her everything that I was going through, how I gave up everything. And she said, "You want to know something? I would have never known that you had all of this inside of you." She said, "The way you come here, you're so friendly and respectful to everybody." And she said, "You're such a humble man." She said, "But all of this," she said, all of this that's going on inside of you." She said, "What you did to that kitchen," she said, "I would normally fire somebody." She said, "But no." She said, "I've grown to have great respect for you." And she said, she said, "Don't worry about it. Things are going to work out." She said, "You're going to get past this." She said, "You just have to allow yourself to get past it." I'm around all of these people with all of this profound wisdom. She said, "Allow yourself to get past it." And she gave me this big hug. I enjoyed that. I was like, "All right now." I said, you gonna keep hugging me like this?" I said, I said, "You're gonna end up pregnant." And she started laughing. And so I went back in the kitchen and I apologized to Derek, because when something like that happens and you don't explain it, or you're not in the position to explain it, and someone takes you somewhere to talk to you for a minute, the person that you did that around is like, "What the hell is going on?" That person needs to know if they're safe or not. So when I got back there, I had apologized to him, and I told him, "I'm just hurt, man. I'm just hurt." And he said, "Man, I understand. Because his kid's mother, Ebony, is always at the job flirting with people." And so he understood me. He told me the same thing. "It's going to be all right, bro. Don't even worry about it. It's going to be all right." So the question, was there anything about Georgia that you loved? It was those experiences. And I totally fell in love with the woman who I was talking to because of her profound wisdom and insight. And the younger people at Popeyes, I absolutely love all of them until this day. As a matter of fact, it was those younger people that I was around who looked up to me and I looked up to them, that had me wondering, wait a minute, Georgia it might not be that bad to stay out here. However, I wasn't going to be able to accumulate any employment that was worthwhile. And I'm not big on struggling. I'm not big on struggling. Uh-uh. It's got to be at least $25 an hour and up when it comes to Mr. David. But out there in the city to where it's predominantly black, it's going to have a very weak economy because I got to know a lot of people. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who I was working with in that Popeye had 3 jobs just to make ends meet. There was a young lady who had um, to work two jobs just to accumulate $1,000, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I was telling them when I was out there, I said, "You guys need a union. You need to get a union out here." But they don't. They didn't have a union out there. Now, one of the primary things that I loved to do out there was go down to the King Center, to the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I would sit in the Ebenezer Baptist Church in the 7th row all the time, and I would just sit there, and they would play Dr. King's speeches, and I heard a lot of speeches to where I would get Dr. King mixed up with Brother Malcolm. And what I love about the admission in Ebenezer Baptist Church, along with it being free, you're able to venture anywhere you want in the church. You can go upstairs and you can go in the little offices that Dr. King and all of them used to have their meetings and the little secretary. You can go anywhere in Ebenezer Baptist Church and not have a security guard walking behind you all the time. Because when I first walked in there, I met the security guard. I said, "Do I have to pay?" He said, "No, bro." He said, "You can go anywhere you want in the church." I said, "Anywhere?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "We have a basement down there too." So I went all over there, and I went to Dr. King and Coretta Scott King's tomb, which is right outside the church, in the middle of the fountain. And I have to share that environment has a very peaceful and authentic feeling to it. And I used to go down there a lot so I could feed off of the authenticity of the environment and the peaceful environment. It's very peaceful down there. And so considering what I was going through, it was the King Center and it was the younger people at Popeye's Chicken who I worked with that helped me get through my challenges in Georgia. And what it did teach me is that Georgia is all about people. It's all about the people. The environment is beautiful. It's beautiful. Georgia is a beautiful place. It's beautiful. And Atlanta, Lithonia, Georgia, which is called something else now, something. But my experience in Georgia showed me that it's all about people. It's all about people because when I came in contact with the Jehovah's Witness, I met one of the best people in my life, Brother Richard, who counseled me a whole lot, who helped me a whole lot. And it's another brother who was a Jehovah's Witness. His name escapes me right now. And but those were some great brothers, great brothers. And so I learned that every environment is not the city itself, it's the people in which live there. And it's the it's the decent people that live there that's good to come in contact with. Because Dorsey, that's the other um, Jehovah's Witness brother. Yeah, him and I, he took me to lunch one time, and we were sitting there eating lunch, and I thrive on kindness. I really thrive on kindness, and see, it's moments like that to where I like said to myself, it might not be too bad to actually build a life out here in Georgia. And so I guess that considering being away from my sons, which is something that I don't think I'll ever be able to handle, but coming in contact with those people who I mentioned helped me endure the fact that I was away from my son and helped me through the healing of the hurt that Salam Yuma inflicted on me. And it was a few other people that caused me some major problems that I'm not going to get into that. But just to answer the email, yes, it was some very um, good moments that I had in Georgia. And I would have to assert that if I would have been able to drive the bus out there, and if they would have told me that I would have a full time schedule, I probably would have been out there longer. But I most likely would have had to come back here because I have to be where my sons are. I have to be where my sons are. I'm one of them dads that loves his sons tremendously. I love my kids, man. I love my kids. But just to answer the email, I thank you for the email because that gave me time to sit here and go back into the past and actually come to realize that I don't despise Georgia. I just despise some of the some of I despise the hurt and and the humiliation that I had to endure out there. That was unprovoked. It was totally unnecessary. It was totally unnecessary. But the Creator put really good people in front of me who helped me get through it. And so obviously there's going to be a time to where I'm going to revisit Georgia and get back in touch with Brother Richard and Dorsey and at some time make my peace with the whole experience. Because sometimes you have to go back and make your peace with 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 a place of where you had some of your worst experiences in order to heal yourself and heal that situation and make it right for yourself. So, with that being said, I'm going to end this right here, and I hope that everyone have a very pleasant evening. And with that being said, everybody, stay human.